From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Now, near the final end of each month, we kind of hang out here on Spaced Out Radio, and I look around and see my friends, and I'm like, who would I like to bring on for the SOR Round Table? Well, tonight we have a great panel, a couple of Bigfoot researchers, one cryptid researcher, one witch, and one scientist. How do we bring them all together? Well, that's what we do here on Spaced Out Radio. We have a little bit of pull with people around here, and people kind of like us. Well, for the most part. Except two. But that's okay. We can handle that. We can totally handle that. We are joined by Spaced Out Saturday host on our YouTube channel, Lynn Wallington, Gary Spikes Jr. from P3 Productions, from Washington, Idaho Bigfoot Society. Is it Society, Nate? Yeah. Nate Rudd is here. Science Bob is back, and he's wearing a great hat tonight. And the man who literally has 2,214 podcasts that he runs every 2 days, Bryan Bowden, is here. And we welcome the panel here into Spaced Out Radio. Now, this panel, usually we try and spread it out. A little paranormal, a little Bigfoot, kind of in the month that was. But really, this has been, and June will be, the month of the UFO. Because we are getting real close with a lot of information. We see Luis Elizondo absolutely everywhere. Yesterday he was on a great podcast with Joe and Ben, friends of ours from UFO Garage, and I highly suggest anybody out there who loves UFOs, go on YouTube and subscribe to their channel. It is absolutely phenomenal. And he was on our show, Luis Elizondo, this past week as well, along with his right-hand man, Sean Cahill. And I'll tell you, I was very critical of Lou Elizondo when he was with the TTSA because I did not trust the two of the Stars Academy as far as I could throw them. And now, the way I've seen Lou really step out of the shadows and become his own person, you know, he really is taking the bull by the horns. He is a man on a mission. Bob, you have dealt with people at the Pentagon. You've dealt with people in Washington, D.C., what are you seeing out of Lou Elizondo that changed from, say, 3 years ago to where we are now?
Lou has gone from just walking on eggshells, just completely walking on eggshells. And now he's talking about crashed vehicles, talking about fighting with the Pentagon, using Danny Sheehan as his lawyer, and you know, they're scared shitless, so pardon me, about Danny Sheehan because they remember him forever for the Pentagon Papers. I mean, Lou has taken a brickbat to him. And he's determined to keep the profile of all those efforts high. He and Chris Mellon did a great thing getting those videos out, and they changed the conversation. And they didn't let Tom DeLonge drag them down. So it's just really interesting. The other thing is, there's a lot of stuff coming out of the Pentagon. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but what's really interesting is it appears that Chris and Lou have opened the floodgates. And by that I mean, within hours of a new video coming up, that from Jeremy Corbell of all people, the Pentagon is confirming it's real and that these are actual videos taken by Viper and Snoopy teams on board these ships, and they're saying, yep, they're unknowns, we have no clue what they are, and these are real, and these are our people, and they took these videos. And then Greenwald goes out today and talks to the Pentagon, and they gets an answer back, yeah, well, we're releasing it because we don't want there to be any confusion and a bunch of falderall. We're just going to say when it's ours. And then Greenwald is smart enough to ask, well, are you going to prosecute anybody for these leaks? And they go, there's no plans now, but we're not commenting. So just lots and lots of stuff. And we know, all of us know, that was Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo that got all this rolling.
It really is. And Bryan, I want to bring you in here to discuss this because so much has happened this week. What was your opinion when you found out that John Greenwald from the blackvault.com was able to get this scathing report out of the Pentagon that they were actually shredding and burning and erasing Lou Elizondo's emails that gave him any credibility and credence? It was like they were making him disappear. You know what, guys, and I'm going to throw a caveat in here for a second, but if you believe the Bob Lazar story, this is exactly what we're seeing happen to Lou Elizondo. Bob Lazar said his credentials all got scrubbed. Does that now put him in play too? But first, let's get to Elizondo. Bryan.
Well, first of all, kudos to you on all these interviews you've been getting this last week. I mean, you really have been killing it. I appreciate all these individuals for their service to the country, separate from the UFOs. It's really important people understand that these people do what they do and, you know, how it affects their families and lives. But given what's taken place, I think it's amazing. And I do believe Bob Lazar, by the way. And I do believe that they're going to do their best to put some kind of a collar on Lou, but it's not going to happen. Lou's been in this game a long time, and he's been playing a different type of game. And if you know people that do what Lou used to do, they're pretty versed at you know, taking anything that's been thrown their ways, or as Lou was saying, arrows. So they can try to make him go away. He's not going to disappear. And I think this is really interesting. But I still I'm a little bit hesitant about what to expect on the 25th, because I really don't think people are going to get what they want. And I know everybody's screaming disclosure, but you may want to, you know, put that aside and say it's not going to happen, because I don't think it will. But there's going to be some good information coming out from this point forward. They can't stop the flood right now.
No, and you know, like Elizondo said on Spaced Out Radio the other night, he said this is still quite a 50-50 split, Lynn, that there's 50% of the populace in Washington, D.C. that want this story out, and then there's 50% that are still trying to cover this up, whether it's for governmental secrets, whether it's for religion, whether it's because there's fear of what's going to happen with the population. There's a lot going on here, and he's taken a lot of heat for it right now. And, you know, he is the targeted man along with Chris Mellon. What's your thoughts? How does somebody try and bounce back from that and stay on the positive after everything you've seen?
I mean, I guess he just keeps doing what he's doing. I mean, I've never been, you know, Lou's cheerleader. I'm sure he's a nice enough guy, but like, I'm still undecided about him. Like, so I don't really know. I mean, I guess keep doing what he's doing, but I don't know. I don't think that it's 50-50 personally. Maybe this is me being cynical. I think right now it's probably still like 80-20, 70-30 maybe if we're lucky, but 50-50 seems like a bit much. Like, I have a hard time believing that we're there yet even. So if he wants to continue doing this, I guess continue doing what he's doing, which in my opinion isn't a whole heck of a lot, but that's just my opinion.
Well, why are you critical of him? Let's just open up the door. Why not? I mean, that's why we're here.
Right. Okay. So like, I watched the interview that you did with him, and you were fantastic. But again, he still did the same thing that I've criticized every single time about him, which is talk in circles. He didn't give us anything new. Like, I literally took notes trying to find something new that Lou gave us, and I didn't find anything that he said that none of us don't already know. So that's my problem with Lou, is that, so yes, he came out with ATIP. He didn't really leak the videos. He didn't give us a whole heck of a lot more than that. So I want him to give us something new, as opposed to just talking about, I mean, he really just talked about his opinion about the government and where we stand, but he didn't give us any new information. He always says, I can't talk about it. There's stuff, but I can't tell you. And that's it.
You know, Dave, just to comment on what Lynn's saying, something that, you know, I've been fairly critical of anybody coming out to the stars, including Lou, because I know what these people do for a living, or did for a living. And no disrespect to Lou, I like your interview, and I was watching his body language and everything he was saying. He was very emotional. He seemed to be a little more human. But these are people that, for lack of a better word, lie and deceive for a living for national security. So you've got to take everything they say with a grain of salt. And also, even if someone is going to that truth factor, if you've been doing lying and deceiving for 30, 40 years, it's kind of hard to get out the truth. So we'll see what happens in the next, 3 months, as you know, in my opinion.
Right. That's the thing that I don't understand about him, is why is everybody taking his word as law? Why are we have nothing to prove that he is who he says he is, really. We don't have anything. So why are we automatically assuming that he was the director of ATIP? There's nothing to back that up. And like I said, he could be a very nice person. I just look at that and I say, well, okay, show me something that backs that up. Anything.
Okay, so the former majority leader said he was in charge of that office and that he raised the money to pay Lou to do that job. I mean, Harry Reid is not no one. Okay, so the other thing I want to point out is three former presidents have now said we see crap flying around our ships. 2 directors of national intelligence have said we see crap flying around our ships. Both the former and the current chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence said we see crap flying around our ships and we want answers. That's a lot more than we ever had before. And the facts are straightforward. Without Lou and Chris Mellon, we would not be here.
I agree with you on that as far as Chris Mellon goes. I'm still questionable of Lou. But I agree with you on everything you're talking about, where they're admitting that these are unidentified aircraft or whatever it is that they are, that we just don't know what they are, and they're admitting to that. That is so much more than they have ever done in the past. I'm just saying I still haven't seen enough to show me that Lou's credentials are what he says that they are.
That's interesting. Nate, let's get your opinion.
All right. Well, obviously I'm no authority on this subject, but I'll tell you what, I'm super excited with seeing all this come out and the videos being leaked. And, what I do believe is that our government and the shadow agencies are not going to release anything willingly. People are leaking this stuff and it's great. I want disclosure. I'm the type of guy that I don't trust our government whatsoever. They've lied to us constantly over the years. And I understand national secrets and things like that, but we, the people, pay the tax bill and we pay for these guys to have a job. And I'm of the mindset that we deserve to know. We're not the common folk. We're not the sheeple. We deserve to know. And that goes for Bigfoot. They're covering that up, obviously. There's all kinds of things. So, to me, just that this stuff is coming out, people are coming forward is solid. I know I'm not trying to change the subject, but in the Bigfoot world, people have come forward also. Hasn't made the news yet, but they've got Sasquatch on nuclear bases, penetrating multiple layers of security, 10-foot razor wire fences, and they've got them on video. And I've actually seen some of that video on a base. So I guess I'm excited just that this is starting to come out. People are coming forward, and I think it's great. More people that come forward and let the people know what's going on is going to make me real happy. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I'm not an expert at all on anything, especially UFOs, but I've kind of been following it on the side and the peripheral, and it's super exciting. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
All right, Gary from P3 Productions, you spent, I believe, 8 years as an Army Ranger. And congratulations to you, and thank you for your service, man. We really do appreciate that. And I want to get your opinion here, because you're more into the Bigfoot world, but you also understand how the military and the brotherhood and sisterhood works. So what you're seeing here with the whole UFO front, are you seeing anything out of the ordinary?
Well, first thing I'm going to open up by saying I love that you brought Bob Lazar into this, because as we know, he was the original whistleblower that came in. But also, you talk about throwing the wolves to the lambs, vice versa, or the lamb to the wolves. I have to be very careful what I say because of my military career. But I'm all about full disclosure. But what we have to keep in mind, folks, is the government has been documenting and interacting with extraterrestrial beings since we know since the 50s. So any information that we're going to get is probably stuff that they've got teams of people, I guarantee you, that's going to analyze all this information and black it out and just get at little tidbits before anybody in the civilian world, no matter how high up they are. They're in our government system, and I don't agree with it. And I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I'm a veteran. I fought for this country, and I'll do it again. And I still think we're the greatest country in the world. But there are, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Nate can tell you that. There are entities inside this government that are far and above, and I hate to say this, are far and above the Senate and the House and the Congress. I mean, when you start getting into DOD stuff, you're starting to get into a dark, dark area. I kind of agree with Miss Lynn about, Lou. I've been keeping up with some of that. He's just saying the same stuff over and over, but I'm curious to see what he's going to come out and say after the 25th. When this stuff becomes mainstream, that might be able to give him a little bit, how would we say, down here in the South, we call it a poke in the butt. But it maybe to get him to come out and say some more. But the one thing I just noticed today, they was releasing one of these videos of multiple UFOs flying around a ship off the coast of San Diego, and that's making a big deal. Oh, they're flying 158 nautical miles an hour. A prop plane will do that. I want to see the videos and the technology of them doing 90-degree turns at Mach 1 and Mach 2. I don't think we're going to see that. I think the government's going to keep that completely, under wraps. Even though they have to release this stuff, they still have control of what they're releasing. I don't think we're going to get a full disclosure. I think we're going to get what they want to give us, and it's going to keep a manipulation going. And I hate to say that because, being the lover of this country and serving the way I have personal experience with that manipulative actions in the government. I'm more worried about, and I'm going to say this, and I might get us in trouble, but I'm more worried about if they do a full disclosure. Everybody sees what happened with all the panic buying and all the fighting in the aisles in Walmart and stuff, people buying stuff to wipe their hind ends with because of a pandemic. What are we going to do with an extraterrestrial invasion?
And you know what? We have discussed that quite ad nauseum here on this, and I don't mind getting into it again because I actually had this conversation on a radio station that I was interviewed by in Ontario at Saga 960 with a great host there named Mark, and Mark's a good friend of our show here, and I do a weekly hit with him. And you know what? I don't think it's out of the ordinary, as we got about 3.5 minutes here to go before we go to break at the bottom of the hour, that we need, or the government is looking into, the potential concerns of what happens if they do admit that there are aliens. I really do. If they admit that this is alien technology and this technology is coming from another planet, from another solar system, what is that going to do to people? I think of what it's going to do to the markets. I think the markets are going to crash outside of weaponry. Food. You bring up food. I think food is going to be, I'm stockpiling on Metamucil because somehow I think that's going to be the hot button topic and the hot button grab there. I don't know. But, I mean, we look at all of this stuff, Bryan, and we do have a real concern on this planet because this isn't just something that's going to affect America. This is going to affect 7.8 billion people on this planet.
100%. And what you have to also understand is the government really is in control of this whole thing, and they can easily say, we really don't know what's going on, and we don't have any craft. We just don't know what these things are, and that's why we've been investigating it. They have an out. They have an easy out. And people could say, oh, we don't believe you. Well, no, they've been saying it. We don't know what they are. We showed you those videos that we have, and they can totally have plausible deniability, 100%. The second they open that door or give you anything else, it's over. So I think on the 25th, you're not going to get yep, you got it. We got green, gray aliens and reptilians and 12-foot beasts, and we really can't stop them from doing what they want. And also, when you look at some of these videos that are coming out in the military-wise, I'm sure there's a lot of infighting right now from the ones in the dark area, that may have released or may have been testing what they do have and got caught doing it, and now a lot of heads are rolling. So forget the panic buying. I mean, I don't think it's going to be there. A Metamucil is interesting. I would go with silver instead of that. But I don't know. I think there's something fishy about how quickly this is really ramping up, and everybody's now talking about it. It seems like a setup. It's kind of like that scene in the movie where they move the camera to the right spot where the dog's coming through the window. I don't know. I'm a tad bit cautious about this.
The thing that bothers me is just the Stepford media and the Stepford politicians and the Stepford others. They all have exactly the same words to say. That should bother everyone.
So, I mean, if it's real, the Stepford media will say, we have UFOs. In other news, they just won't give it that. They'll give it the wow factor for 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to something else be new.
I mean, even if you look at the Pope, what was it, last year or the year before last, he acknowledged that the church knew about alien life. And they just swept it under the rug. I don't think there's going to be a full disclosure. Society will. I mean, I hate to say it. If it becomes a full disclosure, society's going to collapse, like Dave said.
All right, guys, let's hold on right there because we do got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. It's a great paranormal panel. We're going to be focused on UFOs all night long. Nate Rudd, Science Bob, Lynn Wallington, Gary Spikes Jr., and the man with nearly 4,000 podcasts, Bryan Bowden. We'll be back right after this. All right, we're clear.
Dave, I apologize, but I don't know what's going on with my connection. It went perfect the other night, so
That's
don't know
okay.
what's happening here.
That's all right.
You're good. You're fine.
You're fine.
Your connection looks great.
Yeah, if you go out, you come back in pretty quick. So.
Yeah.
The only thing that I have noticed differently from the other night, my friend, is obviously you combed your hair and not your wife like the other night.
Well, it's been a long day, Dave.
It's pretty interesting when Lou said to you, Dr. Greer, who?
Yeah, save that. I'm getting into that next.
Man,
We're running for Congress.
I want to make one comment. You put up a question.
You know what I'm thinking, Bryan?
You put up a question from a listener, and I'm going to answer it. Richard Dolan is not divorced.
Yes, I know that.
I should be seeing Richard Dolan in about 2 months. Pine Bush.
I talk to Richard Dolan multiple times a week. I administer his forum.
I know the former admin.
Hey, Bob,
cool, Bob.
I put out a message to, look at this. We have Bruce Maccabee coming on for Science Bob and Friends.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Very happy.
Yes.
Oh, man, I really am looking forward to that. I admire Bruce.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, he thinks, I mean, he went shot from the hip the other day, man, if he still has one. But he shot from the hip the other day basically saying that he believes that we're going to learn about aliens, if you heard that.
Well, no, that you should go watch the videos and interviews with his wife, who was in a blind in a tree.
I've seen
and
that.
saw a bunch of aliens. I mean, come on.
I saw that one. The only aliens they're going to be talking about is illegal aliens.
I do notice the border keeps coming up and everything.
Yep.
Oh.
I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. I'm not trying to be a negative or a downer. I just don't see it. There's a lot more to this, and it's too little amount of time to get that report and what's really required that's behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody Gary, you serve in the military, you know the deal.
Yeah.
There's stuff that you cannot talk about.
Nope.
So I keep trying to find out what is the current rank or GS level of the officer in charge of UAPTF, because I heard from Chris and or Lou that the person got 2 ranks lower or 2 GS steps lower for the current lead on UAPTF, and they promoted the admiral that was in charge up and out. So that's not cool.
Nope.
You know what is cool though, Bob? Your hat.
I like it. It's better than my shining chrome dome.
I mean, if we throw something, how long have we had NASA? Since the 50s? We just created a space force. And this is the thing that got me being in the military, and reacting the way that I did to it. We created a space force, and then all of a sudden you don't hear nothing about it. We acknowledge that it's here, but we're not going to tell you what we're doing with it. It's what we used to call old juke and move all the time. In the military, they do it a lot. We're going to shift over here so you watch, and we're going to come around the back door. I'm very curious to see what comes up. A lot of these videos that they're showing, once again, I have to say, we're testing drones to the level now. They've got what they call beehive mentality drones that runs off of a central computer in a ship, and one person runs it. You could have 17 UAV drones running around a ship and making those, because with drones you don't have to worry about G-force with a drone.
Right.
You can make those turns with a drone. So it makes me wonder, all this stuff, I wonder if they're maybe just doing a little bit of a disclosure, just so they can open up, hey, look at this new toy we got, Yeah.
That smoke and mirrors is always present with Lou. I'm sorry, but I know people in the business that are still in the business.
Brian, hold your thoughts right there, because I want to say a big thank you to Carl, to Andrew, to Catfish, to Ben from UFO Garage, Science Bob, and Media Fox for the awesome super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/ YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with the SOR Paranormal Roundtable. In our panel, we have Science Bob McGwier, Nate Rudd, Gary Spikes Jr., the man with literally 3,215 podcasts, Bryan Bowden, and Spaced Out Saturday Night host on YouTube, Lynn Wallington. Panel, welcome back. Right before the break, Gary, we started talking about, the impact that this could possibly have if it is disclosed that aliens are here and are coming. My question to you is, what are you seeing as possible results from the public around the world, not just in the United States, not just in Canada, if all of a sudden President Biden comes up to the podium on June 25th or after and says, "My fellow Americans, we've made contact"?
If that happens, honestly, I think a lot of the population is going to be like, see what happens? I knew it. But a lot of the population, depending on how they handle the next few days, and I think that's the reason they're doing these slow disclosures, is because, if a major UFO, and I don't mean to be talking scientific movies and science fiction movies and all this, but if we have an Independence Day thing happen, a big ship automatically just shows up on the planet, all sociological and everything is going to collapse. Like y'all said, the dollar is going to collapse. We'll have riots in the street. Look at what we're having already. I have to question what's their motivation. Do they want that to happen, or they not want that to happen? But when all that stuff happens, it's going to be left up to the preppers. I don't even want to get into that. But we will literally, the world as we know it is going to stop. And I have to bring this into fact because it's so much of a factor of everybody on the planet. This has been said in every nation, ancient prophecy, every ancient religion, all across the world, that this was going to happen. So you have to wonder, is it or is it not? It's just a matter of when, because I'm a true believer that there are extraterrestrial beings out there, whether they are extra dimensional or they're actually on different planets. And I think they're already here. But when we get the disclosure, I honestly, in my personal belief, believe that depending on how they handle it, I can't even talk. Everything's going to collapse. It's just going to be pure chaos.
Nate, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Gary. There's so much of society is checked out, I think. I hate to say it, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but, half of our society, especially our younger generation, is so dumbed down. And our media, they throw garbage at us on a daily basis to distract us. Everything's a distraction to keep us away from what matters. And like I said before, I don't think they're going to disclose this stuff willingly. So, I don't think people are going to handle it well, like Gary says. Some of us have kind of prepared for it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know what else to say there.
All right, Science Bob, you get the final word on this one.
So I'm a little more hopeful that if they have disclosure, there will be a lot of upset people, but I don't think things will collapse. That's my opinion. The other thing I want to point out is the report is being put together, UAPTF for the Pentagon, but it's an all-of-government thing, and DNI Avril Haines will deliver the report to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. She is a no-nonsense person, and she's not from the Pentagon, and we could see some really interesting stuff. Well, if we hear, hey, we've made contact with ET and they're from Zeta Reticuli, well, I think there'll be a lot of shock, but I don't think the world will collapse.
4.5 billion people on this planet pray to some sort of god or religious deity. Most of those people believe that anything coming out of the sky, Bob, is of demonic descent from the devil himself, and Armageddon is on its way. This is where I struggle to agree with you.
Well, we'll see. That's all we can do is wait and see.
This is true. All right, let's move on to another topic here, because when Luis Elizondo was on Spaced Out Radio a couple nights ago, all right, he dropped a bomb. Now, Third Phase of Moon is a YouTube channel here that has almost 800,000 subscribers. And behind the scenes, I've got to know the Cousins brothers a little bit, and I got to say, they're good guys. They are very good guys. And I know that we have talked recently about this and everything, and they're more in the Dr. Stephen Greer category because they've had a relationship with Dr. Greer over the years. Dr. Greer has been on their show, and lately, Stephen Greer, love him or hate him, has come out publicly really criticizing the work of Lou Elizondo, the work of Chris Mellon, the anti-threat movement that he portrays as ETs being all loving and all light, and basically calling Elizondo a shill, calling him a somebody who isn't being very upfront with this subject. Now, Third Phase of Moon agreed to get Dr. Stephen Greer on their channel to have a discussion, a.k.a. debate, about this entire topic, about what's going on. Let's clear the air. They got enough people on their channel where this could create some good UFO buzz. It really could. But Elizondo fired back on this show, claiming that when I brought up Dr. Stephen Greer, he said, "Doctor who?" And then he said, "I don't negotiate with terrorists." That kind of blew me away. It really did kind of blow me away here. So I'm curious. Bob, I'm going to start with you on this one because you know how that side works. What kind of shot over the bow was that from Luis Elizondo to Dr. Stephen Greer?
Let's suppose that half of the contacts that Greer claims he's had with former CIA, DIA, presidents of the United States, etc., are true. These are not people that like to have these private contacts blabbed about. And Admiral Thomas R. Wilson was director of the DIA, and Greer had a contact with him and brought Eric Davis into contact with Wilson, and all of it just kind of got dumped out in the wide open. Greer was really kind of an amazing, impactful person. Kind of the first 10 years everybody knew about him. That's arbitrary, but it was through the Rockefeller meetings, through the National Press Club day where he brought all these generals, politicians, etc., and they attested to the fact that they were witness to and had evidence of, from the FAA to missile battery operators, etc., that these things were real. And then kind of after that, there was a sea change when To the Stars Academy came out. And it was, these people are going, the To the Stars Academy people are from the government side, and the government side people involved, all of them are national security state people, whether they're contractors like Lockheed Martin connected, or whether they're CIA connected, or whether they're DIA connected, or whether they've worked for the intelligence community most of their lives. And these people's one job is to assess whether things that happen are national security threats. That's their job. Their job is this a national security threat? The other thing we heard from Lou the other night was, we don't know whether or not this is a national security threat, but if it's not, great. But again, their job is to assess whether or not All those things that were flying around and filmed or radared around the USS Kidd are a threat. They weren't invited. They came within the controlled airspace of that ship group, and the facts are that this is a thing that's an issue. And the Navy and the national security state they're going to worry about all that. And Lynn looks a whole lot better than I do.
I will have to agree.
Sorry, Dave zoomed her. Okay, I'm done.
Oh my god!
Makes you lose your train of thought, don't it?
You know what's funny is the chat room in our YouTube is trying to make Lynn laugh right now, and she's holding up. So I put her picture up there for our YouTube audience to see if we could crack her up, and it didn't work.
Dave.
She held it together. But Bob, I agree with everything that you're saying. That this is. This is a very delicate situation. Emotions are running high on both sides because the way I look at it, Bob, and before I bring in anybody else on this topic, okay, before I bring in everybody else, Bob, the way I look at it, we got Dr. Stephen Greer, who's made a very healthy living off of this subject in CE5. Okay, now we have the counterintelligence in Elizondo, who is calling this a threat. I can see where the battle is. It's gluing together.
You're mischaracterizing what Lou says. Lou says we need to assess whether or not it's a threat. They are entering controlled airspace, and they are uninvited. Right. That is the job of the intelligence community and the Department of Defense. If they stop doing that job, we can stop spending $1 trillion a year on them.
Very true. Very true. But and this is where I get confused, though. And we'll bring in Lynn here. Okay, this is where I get a little bit confused because if this has been happening for a long, long time, Lynn, and you've been a part of MUFON, you've been a part of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's Free Experiencers for people who do not know, all right, this is something that we know has been going on for years. Are you tired of the government really coming back and saying, well, we don't know what this is. We don't know. This is happening? Oh, wow. I can't believe this is going on. Is that storyline getting old for you, Lynn?
Of course. But it's also not going to change. They're not going to say anything until they're forced to. So I don't expect anything different.
Okay. So when Elizondo then called Dr. Greer a terrorist, mm-hmm. I know you were listening to the show. What was your thoughts when that happened?
I was like, settle down, drama queen. That's a bit much. That was like, if you want my honest answer, that was my response. It was like, it's a bit much. I mean, I'm no Stephen Greer fan either. I guess I'm nobody's fan.
Who do you like? Who do you like?
I like you, Dave. I like the panel. No, I mean,
it's not over with yet.
They're two opposite ends of the spectrum. Let's be honest. They really kind of are, but I'm not a fan of either. I'm a fan of people who are in the middle, who are realistic.
Dave, Lou is absolutely stealing Greer's thunder, which means that Lou is affecting Greer's bank account. And I am not a fan, I never have been a fan of Dr. Greer. Because everything with Dr. Greer, and that's him trying to get onto my show or anything, I have a 15-page document with questions of what I'm going to do for Greer and how much he's going to get paid. Now, Greer's main focus has always been this Project Bluebeam and this alien ships appearing in the skies and they destroying. It's a fake invasion type of thing scenario. So that's what he's always been preaching. Okay? What Lou is saying, and I give him credit for it, is we have these things coming into airspace. We have to assess if they're a threat or a non-threat. Because if they're a threat, we have a serious problem. We can't counter that. Under what we all know, not what the black projects are. So we have to be careful about that because they can do whatever they want. They can go wherever they want. We've seen it on bases, and we've seen them shutting down nuclear, missile silos. I mean, there's crazy stuff going on there. But if they're not a threat, it is a vehicle for us to maybe welcome these new beings or whatever they are to come and have a dialogue with us. So that it's a double-edged sword. Greer's just pissed off because no one's focused on him at this point. And the problem with him is when he said terrorist, I was cracking up. You know what? Look, you can believe in whoever you want to believe in, but I know that when I've encountered people that believe in Greer, Dr. Greer, I call it the cult of Greer. They are one step away from putting Nikes on and selling roses down at the airport and then drinking some Kool-Aid. And don't get me wrong, I give the guy credit for getting these people to talk and really making this a national issue. But that guy's got a lot more ulterior motives than anybody else. And he's not ashamed to put it out there. You know, just give me $1 so we can get this movie. I want $1 billion.
$2,500.
No, I'm talking about one of his last, before the last movie, the movie before last. We're just asking for $1. We're trying to get 1 billion people to donate $1. So am I. I think so is everybody on this panel would like give me $0.25 instead of $1 from 1 billion people. I mean, it's a little bit, you're talking about, this is the problem. You follow the money. Okay, we know where the money's going through the government. It's black projects, $10,000 toilet seats, wink, wink, right? But with Greer, where is it going? He's pretty much living high on the hog. And how does a doctor who is a nobody start giving briefings to presidents? Because that doctor is not just a nobody. That doctor is well connected and on some of those dark projects. So you got to really look at who you're talking to. At least Lou's coming out into the light. And I'm not a big fan. I respect what he is doing, but I'm suspect of all of them.
All right, Gary, I want to get your opinion.
I've got to be very careful because I'm going to end up going one direction. Y'all going to go another, and y'all all going to be coming after me. Here's what we got to look at. One thing that we always said in the military, the more you know, the less you speak. The more you know, the less you let people know you know. My biggest red flag on this whole deal, and I haven't followed these guys near as much as y'all do because that's not my cup of tea. But if these guys really know what they're knowing, and maybe y'all can fill me in on it, if they really know what they're knowing, how come there's nobody going after them like they did Bob Lazar? Maybe they're too far out in the open. It would draw too much attention to whatever's going on. But to me, when I'm once again, I'm looking at that shuck and move thing. You've got people drawing all the attention over here. They need to be looking over here and looking at seeing what some of the other folks around are doing. For the simple fact, we have a lot of stuff going on in our government right now that, hey, let them play with alien stuff. Let them worry about June 25th. You might start looking in the House bills and stuff, the schedule, and to see what bills is coming up to that point, because they might be doing this to pull your attention over here and not worry about what they're doing with all this trillions of dollars going in the I have to, like I said, I got to be. Y'all got me in a bad. It's not a bad spot. It's a great spot. Dave,
you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct.
I think it's I honestly think it's a plan. And I think the two are feeding off of each other, but it's like, watch. Even the government's like, watch these guys over here while we pass this stuff in the House over here and you're not watching.
Right. And I could see it. I could see it totally. Nate Rudd, I want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I missed a little of that, but like I said, I just think that they're not. The thing is people are coming forward, but if the government wants to shut you up, they're going to shut you up. It's hard to come forward for a lot of these people because they can ruin your life. They can ruin your family. They could show up at your house with 20 armed SWAT type, members in military gear and arrest you and get you on tax evasion, or there's all kinds of things they can get you for. So that's going to be a problem with people coming forward with this stuff.
So I want to point out that the thing that's going on with Lou is he has had exactly those attacks. being made against him. Threats to remove his security clearance, and he told us he has a day job, and I guarantee you his day job is with a Defense Department or intelligence community contractor, and his livelihood is threatened if they remove his security clearance. So he brought the sledgehammer with him by bringing on Danny Sheehan to fight for him. And so he's going through the whistleblower channel. These attacks have been made against Lou. And Mellon, what does Mellon care? He goes home to the Carnegie Mellon area, to all the Mellon family, and he's fine. Lou is a working stiff who needs to work for a living, and these people have threatened his livelihood, and I don't blame him for being pissed.
I don't blame him either. And you know, Lou, as he stated, is not getting paid to do all of this media stuff. He still is a consultant to the United States government, which is how he is literally making his own living. And you know, we look at this guy all over television, we still forget that he is just like you and I. He has a mortgage. He has bills to pay. You know, there's hydro, there's cable, there's internet, whatever it may be. And we all have those bills. And as Bob said, if it gets cut off, where do we go from here? We got 90 seconds left.
I want to put you on the spot for the last 90 seconds. How much did Greer want to appear on your show?
He asked me point blank before I rescinded the great. He asked me if it was a paid interview. He did not set an amount. He asked me what my demographics were, male to female. He asked me how many people I have listening to the show per night, where was I broadcast off of, and could I please supply a list of questions. And that's where I said, that's not good for my audience. I'm a professional. I'm a journalist. And if you want to go toy around with people who are going to pay, I have no interest. And I rescinded our invite for him to come on the show. That's what happened. Brian, didn't that happen to you?
Yeah, it did. I literally have 20 pages of questions and what is he going to get paid, all these things. And I was like, you know what? I don't get paid. You don't get paid. This was just before Undisclosed came out or whatever the heck it was. Not this movie, the 2 movies ago. I figured he's on a promo tour. Come on my show. Nope. He wants to get paid. It's all about money with Greer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, for any of us, you know, I have no problem with Dr. Stephen Greer making money. I have no problem in this field with anybody making a buck. I really don't. But at some point, somehow, it has to be about the people. And what are the people doing? How are the people going to be affected? Because I don't care about and this is just me personally, I don't care about the technology. I have no care about the propulsion systems. I know I could be in the minority. What I care about is people out there who've had strange encounters that have affected their life on a daily basis, and all they want to know is, why me? Hour 1 of Spaced Out Radio's Roundtable is complete. We got hour 2 with Science Bob, Nate Rudd, Bryan Bowden, Gary Spikes Jr., Lynn Wallington, and yours truly behind the microphone here at Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back with hour number 2 right after this. Hey, Gary, can I get you to turn your microphone just down a tad, because you're real overpowering compared to everyone else. All right, guys, we are at break here, and I'm going to step away for a minute, take my dogs outside, and you guys do what the hell you want. I don't care.
I got to walk the dog, too.
Lynn's going to walk the dog 3. Okay, Lynn, you're in control. You're manning it. Hey, rooted in gorgeous sacredness. How are you? I'll be back.
Yeah, I don't know if we want me controlling it. I just put Dave Scott on the Vinnie Barbarino scale of hotness accidentally. So. Well, because I forget, since we both, run shows, we have the same account. So whenever I answer the chat through here, it shows up as Dave.
That's awesome.
Yes. Somebody asked me, hold on, let me go back up. Solar Warden. Yes. If you're talking about those are oils. Yeah, they're essential oils on the shelf. But if you're talking about over here, there are some oils over here too.
And here's your Syracuse Bulldog jersey right there. It says Oglethorpe on the back. But yeah, I'm with Dave because we drove down to Florida like the 4th or 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way down, we were going to stay in Florence, South Carolina. It's like the halfway point for where we are, roughly. And they shut the highway down just at the tail end of North Carolina. So I got on some side road. So I got my wife there, my 2 kids in the back. It's about 12:15. I should be in Florence at 1:15, no later than that. And we get on the side road, old dirt road, whatever, see this really cool craft. I pull over on an old country road and watch it, wishing I had my scope. I figure I would sit back in the car. The next thing I know, I look up, kind of have a headache, and my little Waze says, "Do you want to resume?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." That usually happens when you've been for a while. So I hit the resume button, and it says the estimated time on it. It says you'll be there at 4:16 in the morning. And I'm like, what the hell just happened for 3 hours?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just you or your wife too?
Me, my wife, and my 2 daughters. And actually interesting, last Saturday, my daughter, who never has a nosebleed, had a big time nosebleed. This chunk of stuff came out like really big. So I've had missing time before in investigations. The first one, we were supposed to get Rosemary Ellen Guiley to regress this, but unfortunately Rosemary passed away. But I talked to a couple other people that are big time experiencers for both U.S. Military abductions and aliens. He goes, "Do you sleep okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Don't get regressed." So I don't want to know what the hell happened in those 3 hours at all.
So when I was 18 years old, I picked up my girlfriend from college, and we were going to drive home, and we got about 30 minutes into our trip and woke up an hour and a half later with no frigging clue where we were. No clue at all. Wow. Drifted around for 15 minutes to find where we were, drove home, and everybody was panicked. I said, "Look, I'm sorry." I made up an excuse. I said, "Look, I'm sorry, I just got lost. We found our way, and we're fine."
Right. It's interesting because there's a couple in my family that they don't complain ever about headaches, and everybody complained about a headache. And there's a lot of interesting little side effects, and I've been investigating without revealing to them what's been going on or what happened. But, it's par for the course. You investigate UFOs, this happens. You investigate Bigfoot, he throws a boulder at you. It's the same thing, It's par for the course.
I had weird crap, migraine headaches until the missing time, and 2 weeks after, I changed everything about my life, and guess what? All the migraines went away.
Yep. And then you get the ear ring and the high pitch.
Oh, I have tinnitus ever since then.
I did an interview a couple of nights ago with Justin Cancelleri. He does Beyond Reason, and a psychic, Katie Turner. And while we're doing this type of interview on Zoom, you saw Katie looked up and looked, and she was like kind of looking. So after the interview was over, I said, "What the hell did you see behind me?" So she basically saw I sent her images. She goes, it looks like the Scream face. I said, "Oh, well, that's interesting." Says, but she got an alien vibe, and I sent her pictures of some of the bigger gray aliens. She goes, "Holy crap, that was exactly it." I knew exactly what was behind me. And what's behind me is about a foot before you hit 7 stories to go down. So, story of my life. This is why I investigate it. When I'm not doing 15,000 podcasts, according to Dave.
Yes, you are.
So
you can't deny that. You can't deny that.
No podcasting.
Bullshit on you.
I'm going to be going Sasquatch in a couple of weeks, though.
Let me throw something at you. Do y'all understand how weak we are as a species right now?
Oh yeah.
They're shutting down they're literally proving to us they're shutting down our nuclear missiles. That's our big bada boom. And they shut it down just like that. Look what happened in Texas a few months ago when the power grid went down. People died from from the cold. We are so dependent upon our weak technology system No wonder the government's messing, wanting to keep it quiet.
All right,
Because
guys, hold on. We're here on 20 seconds here. I want to say a big thank you to Carl ×2, Andrew, Catfish, UFO Garage's Ben, Science Bob, and Media Fox for the awesome super chats. It's a great way to support what we do. Thank you to all our new subscribers that are tuning us on in. We really do appreciate it. And here we go with the second hour.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ekphrasis. Ekphrasis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the Roundtable here on Spaced Out Radio. Nate Rudd is with us. Fellow Bigfoot hunter Gary Spikes Jr. is here. Lynn Wallington from our Saturday night show on our YouTube channel. Science Bob, and of course, the man who literally has 1,682 podcasts that run simultaneously. He's actually making a new one right now. Bryan Bowden is here. And we're going to switch topics here. We've talked a lot about UFOs, but there's a big Bigfoot story coming out of Gary's home state of Oklahoma. What is it? Representative Justin Humphrey has announced a $3 million bounty on the State House floor to bring in a live Sasquatch. This comes a couple of months after the state literally is selling tags for hunters to go Bigfoot hunting. Bill HB 1648 would ask that the Oklahoma Wildlife Commission establish annual season dates and create any necessary specific hunting licenses and fees for hunting this mythical creature. Now, Humphrey says a film crew is covering the bounty with plans to shoot a 6-month series on the search for Bigfoot. It's not hunting, by the way. We don't hunt Bigfoot. Nobody wants to harm Bigfoot. We just want to do a live, humane capture of Bigfoot, Humphrey added. We are wanting the whole world to come to southeastern Oklahoma and to the state of Oklahoma and get involved in our bounty. Now, Gary, as someone who researches Sasquatch in Oklahoma, I want to start off with you on this one. What do you think of all of this? Is this just hype for tourism, or are they serious about this?
They're serious. Justin is. He's he doesn't want to admit it, but he has had some experiences, some bad experiences, and they say they're wanting to bring tourism into that part of the country. It very well could be, because that's a poor area. But if they didn't do that, there's plenty of other ways to do it. My personal feelings, it makes me bloody sick. It literally makes me sick. This is my home territory. I mean, I'm down there. I live here. And it's not going to just affect the Bigfoot. It's going to affect the people of the area. It's going to affect all the other animals of the area. Rob, you crazy, honey. It's going to affect all the animals of the area. It's going to affect everything. The hunting, we're going to have a bunch. It's going to be like a bad horror movie. We're going to have every Tom, Dick, and Harry from every other state paying a fee, out-of-state permit. I understand it's going to running down in the woods hunting things. Then you're going to get people down there filming documentaries or wearing ghillie suits hunting. They're going to be getting drunk and shooting everybody up. Then not only talk about that, they want to talk about, catching them alive. They're going to be setting traps down there, destroying the terrain, putting deadly traps in. It's just a bad thing all the way around.
All right, Nate Rudd, you're a Bigfoot researcher in the state of Washington. What do you think? $3 million to capture a live Bigfoot?
Well, they can save their money because it isn't going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. Guarantee it. It's not going to happen.
Why do you say that?
It just won't happen. No one's going to catch one. I mean, it's a possibility someone could kill one. That's a real possibility, but and I doubt that's going to happen also. But myself, I would never shoot one, not even for $3 million.
No.
But I believe they're a people. I believe they're another race of humans. So that would be, to me, it would be like murder. And that's just my opinion. But I'm with Gary. I think it's a big joke. It would cause a lot of problems. Like Gary says, you're going to have everyone there, and they're going to be armed, live ammo in their guns, and it's just going to be a mess. If you watch that TV show where all those guys are running around in the cornfields and stuff, well, that's what you're going to have, shooting guns in every direction, and it's just a joke. It's kind of a joke to me. I mean, if they're serious, they're serious, but to me, it's a big joke.
You know what I don't like about it? This reminds me when what's that horror movie with the clowns? Is it It?
Yes.
Okay. When all these idiots started dressing up as clowns, and you're going to a parking lot, an underground parking lot, and these idiots are scaring women and children, who are and people who are damn near having heart attacks over this, and it became a cult fad about 5.5 years ago. I can see, because people are stupid, Lynn, I can literally see people dressing up in monkey suits, running around the forest, and people getting killed over this. I really can. Now, I'm not saying that like I'm trying to fearmonger or anything, but I see this being the same way as people dressing up as Pennywise.
Yeah, I agree. People are stupid.
You can never lose underestimating humanity.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a horrible idea. So I don't know what they're trying to achieve with it.
So I saw this story today when I was reading about this, that the guy is actually promoting a big festival that's going to come up that's surrounding this. So he wants a bunch of people to come to this festival, and this is a way of promoting it. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first of October we have the Anobia Bigfoot Festival, and we've been having it for years. They had to close it down last year because of the pandemic. But yeah, he's wanting to do it, and that's what he's saying because he's from that area. But once again, it's not a good deal. I mean, and here's my factor. I'm a believer that these are a physical being. The target species is. What's happened when they start pushing back? I don't know if y'all haven't had sightings like I have. Me and Nate's talked about mine in depth, and me and Dave has. But if one of these decide to push back, it's going to take probably more of a platoon of special forces to take him out.
100%. I mean, these things are so accurate and deadly with anything. When I had that boulder thrown at me, he could have killed me in a second.
Absolutely.
He purposely did not, and had it land behind my chair and then it rolled into my chair. You're going to need more than $3 million for your medical bills when you come up against these things, because these are no joke.
Yes.
This is out of control. In the physical form, you can't. You're going to lose big time. It's going to be really dangerous. And when you piss them off, they will rip you to shreds. It's an animal still.
And I agree with you. I mean, this has complete animal instinct. And, Brian, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we don't want to piss it off. We know that, people who have been investigating this for years, even the First Nations people, talk about, Bigfoot being a very spiritual and peaceful creature. But much like killer whales in the ocean, there are rogues out there that really seem to act up and really seem to terrorize a lot of people. And we've seen and heard the stories of people being chased, potentially people from children all the way to the elderly being kidnapped by this thing, if you believe the stories of David Paulides' missing 411. You know, you don't mess with nature. That's one thing that I learned. Look, just a couple of weeks ago, I saw a grizzly bear mother and her 2 cubs roaming around an area. When I told my hunting friends where we saw it, their first words were, grizzly bears are not supposed to be there. Were you safe? Were you safe? Because grizzly bears, they don't like people. They're like house cats. They just don't like people. And they'll tear you apart for no reason. And when we are dealing with a creature that we don't know about, I really find it difficult for anybody out there to try and tell us that this is a good move. I think it's a tourism cash grab. I think there's a real high potential that there's going to be a lot of Darwin Award winners who end up getting shot and killed, and that's where we're going to go with it. I really do. You know, but Nate, you brought up an interesting point. You believe that this is some sort of wild human species. Why do you believe that?
Well, Dave, I go back to what the Native Americans believed. They've been here a lot longer than us, obviously, and they looked at them as another tribe, a tribe of people, basically. They all had a name for them. It all meant the same thing, basically. You know, and you look back at history, even back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you know, you could find a lot of articles in the newspapers about these things before they started to cover it up or make a mockery of it. It was before the word Bigfoot ever came to be. They called them wild men, hairy men. You know, the Native Americans called them mountain devils, Indian devils, and so I just believe that they are a people. And there's been a DNA study. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we have the DNA, the 110 samples collected by a group of people, highly, highly respected people, a highly respected DNA scientist, Dr. Melba Ketchum. And, you know, and that's why I have a problem with some of the science community. They smear people. If it doesn't fit their narrative, they go after them. They try to ruin them. And so I'm a little sour on some of the science community, not all of them. But we've got the DNA. We've proven that we know it's a human mother and an unknown father, okay? And it drives me crazy. I mean, what else do we need to prove it? You know, I don't know what else to say on that, Dave.
All right, Gary, do you think they're a form of wild people?
I started out thinking it was a primate, and the more I'm finding out and doing research and hanging with guys like Nate, like we do, and discussing this thing, because we have a group of guys that's, you know, pretty adverse in the Bigfoot topic and different. No, we got our own opinions, but and dealing with them like we have, and of course after I seen the one, it changed. My whole scope of prospect changed. When you see one at 18 inches, it changes you. I do. I believe that they are a primitive man. I've got every intention that they have language, that they have comprehensional skills, that because I've seen too much of it in the trackways, in the reactions with each other. I mean, they're at least at the level of a chimpanzee or more, and I like to lean towards more because just flat out the intelligence in the eyes of what I see.
Bob, is it possible that there is a wild human species roaming around the forests of North America?
It's easily possible. I mean, in the last year, we have discovered 10 species of different kinds of animals that we didn't know before. We found several species that were still alive that we thought were extinct. You know, we're ignorant. We're really ignorant. And I want to recommend my kind of introduction to this, because I respected him so much, was David Paulides' books. Before Missing 411, he wrote a ton of literature on Bigfoot, and it's worth reading. It's kind of serious business work, because he's a serious business person, and it was the books are good. I mean, I don't have any personal evidence or personal involvement because I haven't had a chance to be involved in any of it. But to say that there's not a species that we don't know about, that's foolish.
It really is. How about you, Lynn?
Well, I'm going to agree with what Bob said. Like, I personally don't have any experience either with Bigfoot, so this one is kind of out of my realm of personal knowledge, but I absolutely think that there could be a species that has just been undiscovered. So I don't know. Anything I say is going to be kind of theory and or conjecture. So.
And Bryan Bowden, who has at least 87 podcasts on Bigfoot alone.
60 are with Bigfoot. I started off also believing, the great ape or some kind of connection there. I believe these things are their own species, not necessarily relating to human beings like man or the humankind. They are its absolute own. And here's where the woo comes, Dave. This is from personal experience. I believe that they are both physical flesh and blood creatures and have an innate ability to go interdimensional or dematerialize, change their form and energy, and then that's why you can't find them. And that's another reason why no one's going to catch these things.
I think you could be right there. We really don't know. Bob, I want to ask you, is it possible for anything to be interdimensional? You're the scientist.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that we are just now finding out how to make stable wormholes. We know how to make stable wormholes now. This is good, solid, theoretical physics done by extremely well-known, high-powered physicists that are working at the Institute for Advanced Studies, where Albert Einstein and Freeman Dyson, etc., work. I mean, this is real work. So to say that it's not possible, I'd be an idiot, because I now know the equations that tell me how to make a stable wormhole. So no, I believe it's possible, but I just don't know.
All right, Shadow Time is asking a question here for the panel. And normally, I on the roundtables, I don't bring in questions from the audience, but I think this one is something to consider. Shadow Time is asking, does the CIA consider Bigfoot to be a threat? Does anyone here know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that, Dave, but I imagine that they would be, because we can't control them, right? And they have special abilities that we don't understand. And I think that's part of the whole picture of them, of why they're hiding this from us, the knowledge that they have these abilities, and they know they have abilities. Like I said before, they've gotten through multiple layers of high security fencing and stuff like that on military bases. I mean, we could go on and on about their abilities. I think some of us have experienced those abilities, but that for some reason they want to keep that from us, and I'm not sure why. But I could say that I think it would change everything as we know it, right? If they can mind speak, if they can cloak, if they can disappear into another dimension. I'm just throwing all this out there. I'm not saying it's all true, but I just believe that it goes along with this UFO thing where the government, there's certain things they just want to keep us on the, they want to keep us dumbed down. They don't want us to know this stuff. And I think over time, over the thousands of years, we had abilities like this, way back, and we've lost them over time. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not sure, but I just believe that they just don't want us to know. It changes everything as we know it, doesn't it?
I think it does. I think it really does. I mean, look, we don't know what this creature is. We know that it is absolutely everywhere in North America outside of major cities. All right. Now, I don't know if I fully believe a lot of the rumors and conjecture that we see out there, and I know there's others in our chat rooms and potentially on the panel who do. But I live in an area where there's Sasquatch. I went out last weekend looking for Sasquatch. I didn't even see a deer. I mean, it just goes to show you how easy it is for a monster like Sasquatch that could be 7 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet tall to hide in the middle of a forest, in the middle of a jungle, because there are jungles around here. If you look at the West Coast, where we're in a natural rainforest, people tend to forget that here. So, I mean, the fact that this creature can hide easily is simple. I think and I think we like the woo. We want the woo to be possible, but I'm not sure. I would like to believe, because of my own experiences of seeing pixelation beside a tree and then getting roared at about 30 seconds later, I like to combine the two and think, wow, that actually happened. Cannot believe it. But I don't know. I don't know if it's supernatural. I like to call it there's something special with it. So as we got about 2 minutes before we head to break at the bottom of the hour, another half an hour has already flown on by. Brian, I want to give you the final word on Sasquatch. You know, is this a creature? Are we going to, let me rephrase this. Are we going to find aliens before we find Sasquatch?
Probably. They are so good at doing what they do, and I believe it isn't some magical treatment. It's all innate. It's the same thing as try to explain to somebody how you breathe. You can't just do it. They are able to do certain things, just like other creatures are able to manipulate their own flesh and shape and size and smell. So I don't think it's going to take a long time for, I'm going to say, the public to actually, get a sample of this or see it as real. I really do believe that there are some ABC companies out there that have one or two of these and some other cryptids in their possession, and for the primary reason of trying to figure out how they do what they do so they can then port it to a military, type of a application and, get that going on.
I can see that. And Brian, with that, do you believe that, if we're able to find Sasquatch, do you think we're going to find it with a body, or do you think it's actually going to be captured? Can this creature be captured?
I think the creature can be captured, and it's probably more of a young than anything from a teenager on up to an adult. So you'll get a young type of creature. It will be physical, and it may actually, while in the presence or the cage or whatever they captured it, it will go in and out, and you'll start seeing how it disappears. And because I don't think when they're young they know exactly how to do X, Y, and Z. They have to be shown, or there's more to it. It's going to be interesting. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll get lucky this next 3 weeks.
All I know is that Jack Link's Beef Jerky is serving up some really incredible brand new Sasquatch commercials.
Really?
They are fantastic right now. The one with the drone where the Sasquatch captures the drone and then throws it at the guy's head and it gets stuck in his millennial hair. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Check that out. But
yes.
One more thing, Dave.
Yes.
I really don't think there's anything to do with aliens. They're two separate everything.
Well, so is Ogie Oglethorpe, Bryan Bowden, Science Bob, Nate Rudd, Gary Spikes Jr., Lynn Wallington. The SOR Round Table continues right after this. We're going to turn up the woo in the next half hour here, guys. We're going to turn up some woo. I feel the need to literally get wooful. Yeah.
Yep.
You know why? My critics have been hating on me lately, so I feel the need to kind of, get wooful.
Woo it up.
Yeah.
Buy a soda after the game, Yogi.
Piss them off.
Well, let's see. I blocked a couple of trolls early on in the show. One called me fag and a liar.
What?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that was pleasant. You know?
Send them my way, Dave. I'll take care of them.
Well,
And you can do, Nate.
well, the sad part is, you know, Bob and I had a private conversation earlier, and you know, and so did Lynn and I, and you know where it's coming from, and there's no point in even retaliating because that just adds fuel to the trolling fire. You know what I'm saying?
The waste of energy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just normally I the hockey player in me wants to fight back because it's so much fun, but the businessman in me says just ignore it, just block them, get it over with.
That drives them crazy, you know.
Oh yeah.
If they can't get a rise out of you, they're driven crazy.
Yep. So
silence is better. See that? Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I like to tell people is this: every time someone tries something like that, is I have never lied about my experiences. It doesn't behoove me or the great audience that we have built to be a liar about what I've gone through. I am like every other experiencer out there that is trying to figure out what is going on. I just have the ability, because I went to school for it, to learn how to speak in front of a microphone. That's what I do. I'm not a researcher, don't know how to research. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy who's an experiencer, who spent time in journalism, who knows how to speak in front of a microphone. And if people think I'm lying because of somebody's personal opinion, so be it. You're allowed to disbelieve me. You're allowed to disbelieve me. And, yeah, that's just kind of where it is. You know?
The only fault I see in Dave is, just like when we was talking yesterday, is who in their right mind would want to go out and experience some of the things that you've experienced.
Well, you know, it always comes down to, for people who don't believe, it always comes down to proof. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? You're sitting here talking about it each night. Where's the proof? You talk about this. You talk about what you saw in your mom's eyes. Where's the photographic evidence? Where's the video?
Yeah.
Right?
I just like
99% of people who see Bigfoot do not have a camera with them. 99% of people who see a UFO do not turn their camera on. 99% of people who see a ghost are literally shocked that they saw what they saw because it's such a fleeting glimpse. Out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. The child is grown. The dream is gone.
I got all the respect in the world for UFO folks. You UFO folks. For the simple fact that us with the Bigfoot guys is the worst we can expect is they're going to rip us apart and eat us. You guys, they ain't no telling what they're going to do to you.
17.5-inch cast. There's your proof.
That's awesome, Brian.
Wow.
That is cool.
Upstate New York.
Nice.
Big boy or girl.
You know,
that is a big.
Oh, yeah.
You know, put it this way. Like, I see the comments in the chat room right now, and I'm very cool with a lot of banter. I love bantering. I love that insult-type humor. Like, when you guys are giving it to me on my birthday or whatever, that was hilarious. What, you know,
you deserved it.
Oh, true enough. You know, I watch what like our regulars like Vin and Rye Guy and Fapster and Fast Hemi and others put out there on a nightly basis, and I literally have to bite my lip in order to not laugh. Hold on. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much. I really appreciate each and one of you tuning us on in. We really love you. We do. Yes, we do. Why not? Because we can. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the Roundtable tonight. From the Bigfoot Zone, we have Nate Rudd and we have Gary Spikes Jr., the man with literally, no kidding, you can find him everywhere. He's got 7,200 podcasts out there, and he runs them simultaneously. Bryan Bowden, Dr. Bob McGwier, otherwise known as Science Bob, and our Saturday night host on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Saturdays, Lynn Wallington, are here. And I'll tell you, this field is amazing. We got great people who work in this field on a daily basis. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, we recently started a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago, a feature called The Angry Ghost Hunters. And the reason why I'm bringing up ghost hunting right now, and I know none of us here are real paranormal investigators, but is it all tied together? Is it all one? I see David Weatherly, Timothy Renner, people of that ilk who really believe that this is all one type of phenomena that is tied together with some sort of invisible string. Lynn, I want to start with you on this one because you're very involved in the paranormal and the supernatural, and I'm curious what you think on this.
I think it's all tied together, but I don't think it's all one phenomenon. I think they're separate phenomenons that operate on similar levels, mechanics, however we want to phrase it.
Why?
Well, because they're all weird. I mean, they all have some sort of kind of weird woo factor to them. So I think that, if we're talking about aliens traveling interdimensionally at some points in time, if we're talking about ghosts and spirits, we don't know where they exist on a physical plane. Do they exist on a physical plane? Are they interdimensional? Are they on the same plane as us, but in a different space? So it's all, I think it all could be connected. Orbs seem to exist in both kind of realms, both the UFO community and the paranormal community. There's too many things that overlap to make me think that they're completely separate, but I also don't think they're completely the same.
Gary Spikes Jr., do you think they are the same? Like, is everything tied together by some invisible thread?
Well, I mean, if you look at, I have to go back to our roots, and that's all the First Nations people, all the ancient cultures, all the way back. Everything's tied together in a wheel of life and a wheel of spirit. I mean, I truly believe that we're all tied together in a sense because of energy, just like Lynn was saying. Multiple Bigfoot reports with orbs in them, UFOs with orbs in them, spiritual with orbs in them. But I think there is a separation there. I just don't know where it is at this point and how it falls together. But yeah, I'd have to say that they're all tied together in some way or another, just like we're intertwined with them.
Science Bob, is that even possible that this type of phenomena could be all related in one way or another?
Well, so, look, as a scientist, I know that there are these physical properties and our understanding of it that unite all sorts of things. So, and there's these recent pieces of work of people trying to understand consciousness and how we interact one consciousness to another with through the use of electromagnetic fields. I'm telling you that there is some kind of unifying thing in all of them. Look, given that something enters our physical world, it is doing something that's interacting with our physical laws. So there is something physical to it. Now, having seen things standing right next to Chris Bledsoe, that was clear. What was happening was they were appearing in our space-time, growing, shrinking, and disappearing from our space-time. As a scientist that understands, the higher dimensional space kind of stuff, I can see how they are in a collection of dimensions which are orthogonal to ours. In other words, they have a part of space, we have a part of space, and they only mix when they are enter our dimensions. So I can see it. I don't know the mechanism, but what I have seen myself personally with Chris and others is a physical thing, and therefore they're unified by physical laws.
Nate Rudd, you come at it from a Bigfoot side. I know this is a little bit off on a tangent for you, but your hair looks good enough to answer this question. Is it possible?
I'll always do my best, Dave. I don't have all the answers, obviously. I'm a pretty humble guy. I don't pretend to know everything. I'm learning all the time. I've talked to a First Nations person about it, and it really is in their legends and stuff that there is a supernatural aspect to Sasquatch. He told me that they believe that if you're impure or you're not wanted in a certain area, they'll make it rain on you to cleanse you and things like that, just as an example. But they truly believe that there is a supernatural side. And if portals are real, I imagine all kinds of things come in and out of portals. So I'm not sure if it's all connected, but that's the whole thing, the mystery of all these subjects. That's what keeps me going, is just the mystery of it all. And we're probably never going to know all the answers, obviously, but boy, they sure have some abilities that we don't understand, that you could call supernatural, right? I mean, it's amazing.
Bryan, let's get your opinion.
I think as far as the ghost hunting is concerned, I think it's two separate and distinct type of situations. I think it's all based on energy itself and the transference of energy and how it's handled. But I don't think when you're talking Sasquatch, UFOs, Dogman, or these type of cryptids versus ghosts or spirits, I think it's separate and distinct. We have, through my years of research, I've come up and know that resonance, frequency, and sound is really important. It's almost like the key to all of it. And when you change your vibration, your resonance, your frequency, you seem to get a nice play on that from what you're looking for, including from Bigfoot and ghosts. But they're separate and distinct.
Gary, you get the final word.
I think Bryan hit it right on the head, is manipulating that frequency. And it does all kinds of adverse things for all different kinds of things. I mean, it can, if you manipulate energy enough, you can literally melt rock, And I honestly believe that these things a Sasquatch is one up on us on that energy frequency. For the simple fact that in my personal life, I've been part of the grounded movement now for 5 years. I walk around barefooted 95% of the time. And my life has dramatically changed because of that. My health, my pain levels, being able to feel things on the ground, feeling the energies around me, it's made a big difference. So if you take something that's even more physically in tune with the earth than we are, I believe they could manipulate all kinds of things. As on the spiritual side of it, as with any other intelligent form of life, if they are a people and have the mental capacities that we do, they too would be drawn to the supernatural or the paranormal, however you want to say it. So that's where you'd get your reports of Bigfoot in, around areas that's a hotbed of paranormal activity. I like to myself believe that they are two separate, but they're still linked, but they're two separate phenomena.
I don't know. I think there is this thread that connects each and every one of the phenomena may be separate, but something is tying together. Too many times, and maybe some of you have gathered reports on this, where you hear these stories of people who are having a Bigfoot encounter around their campsite, and all of a sudden they hear the animals or whatever they are go running off because here come the lights in the sky. We've heard those stories. So that's what makes me wonder if anything is really tied together. I do believe it is, but we'll never know. We will never, ever know. Let's move back to UFOs here as we continue on with the Roundtable tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Our panel of Science Bob, Bryan Bowden. We got Gary Spikes Jr., Nate Rudd, and Lynn Wallington joining me tonight on the big show. And when we are looking for UFOs, is UFO research, as we potentially move closer to disclosure, is it even worth people recording what they're seeing anymore? Because through this whole thing, here's what we have seen. We've seen a decline in MUFON. The case numbers may be up, but overall, the publicity, the reporting that people are doing, they're putting it more on their Facebook than reporting it to groups, whether it's MUFON, New Fork, or any other of the organizations out there. Is UFO reporting almost a dead or dying research facility? Bryan.
Yes, 100%. Mainly MUFON. And I think the problem is it's when they started selling to television and trying to get all these shows, people consider it more of a television series or something that's not real versus, another reporting agency, but with the advent of social media, they don't have to go to one location to report. They just, hey, we just saw this craft. And then you'll have 50 people jumping in and someone will tag another friend to go look at it. You don't need the report. And you don't need these people coming out to investigate. I stopped, being a supporter of MUFON for a while because of the way they've did things behind the backs of many people, regarding selling evidence or making deals to the Stars Academy. Research should be out there for all of us to, put our 2 cents into and maybe compare what we have to them. And I think people are tired of the non-transparency, so they're just going to leave it.
All right. How about for you, Lynn? You were once part of MUFON.
Oh, I love you, Dave. You always want me to be once part of MUFON, but I actually never was.
In my world, you were.
I know.
In my timeline, you were.
I know. No, I agree. I think it is outdated. I think that that we're also interconnected now on the internet, that people, I don't think, feel the need to report these things as much as they did before. I think they can put it out there and get, 1 million views and everybody else's opinions that go along with it. So is there necessarily the need to report it to an agency? I don't think so.
Gary, I know you're in the Bigfoot world, but this kind of ties, you could say the same thing for Bigfoot too. Is it worth having a Sasquatch research center out there when you have the internet at your hands?
I'm going to say it. Where y'all have MUFON, we have BFRO. But the same thing, it comes down to what you said yesterday, Dave, of with the internet and with individual, it's your own voice can be heard now. Your own opinion can be heard. You don't have to go gather it up with a bunch of others. We can just gather it up with guys on the internet. So I don't have to narrow it down to some physical group that I have to deal with on a daily basis. If I don't like their opinion or personality, I'll just go find somebody else on the internet. I think that the days of the actual big groups like that are done. It's going to be a lot of smaller groups.
Nate, would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yeah, you can find like-minded people in your specific genre or whatever, and that's kind of what we've done. And you don't all have to agree on everything, right? We all have a little bit different opinion on what it could be and who they are and all that. But, yeah, you can reach out to people real easy these days compared to the old days and connect with people that are like-minded, and that makes it really nice. I've gotten to know a lot of good friends, in the last few years, just reaching out to them.
Yep.
And connecting and yeah, it makes it nice.
All right, let's move on here because, Bob, I want to actually, before we go, I want to get your response to that. As someone who has a lot of friends in MUFON, a lot of friends who are UFO researchers, do you look at groups like MUFON or NUFORC or other reporting sites like that as still viable options, or has the internet really taken over?
So the ones that do not share their databases for research fairly freely, I don't see that they serve a purpose. Absolutely. And I think you know which 5-letter one I could be talking about. Now, NUFORC allows its database to be taken by data scientists and do all sorts of things with it. So NUFORC is still relevant, in my opinion.
Yep.
I just can't. I can't understand the mentality of MUFON wanting to keep its database so tightly held and then throw up shows where they bring in talking heads that are well known in the UFO community and talk about individual cases where they're trying to make a TV show. It doesn't seem to be a benefit to human understanding of UFOs in general. And given that they are not aiming themselves to benefiting humanity, understanding what UFOs are, they're failing.
I think they are too. Em has a question here that she wants talked about here. And the other night when we had Luis Elizondo on the show, there was a comment that he made that after June 25th, we could see in the next 3 to 4 months more countries getting involved and this becoming a very international event on learning about this process. What do you think he meant by that, Bob? I know you were tuned in on it. Do you think that...
Oh, yeah, I heard... So the person asking you the question doesn't quite have it right, so let me say what I heard. I heard when you asked Lou about other countries being involved, he got a big smirk, had a big smile on his face, and he said, wait until 3 or 4 months after. And then accompanying that, there have been all of these kind of rumors, which is mostly what UFO folks have to work on, absent evidence, is the rumors have it that the United States government has been threatened, do disclosure or we're going to do disclosure for you. And so it sounds to me like Lou and Chris have taken advantage of this feelings around the world that it's time to say something. And I think they're using it. And so it sounds to me like there might be a meeting or public statements or whatever, not unlike Greer's National Press Club thing, where a bunch of governments come out and talk about their UFO data evidence. And that seemed to be what he was implying, but he did not say exactly that. It just seemed implicit in what he was saying.
Okay. Now, if we bring in Lynn here, who was once never a part of MUFON, all right, you heard the Elizondo interview as well. And I'm curious if you think that this is only a matter of time where we start seeing many of America's allies start to come through and talk about this more openly.
I think they already have. And there are plenty of other countries whose governments have already been talking about this for years. So I don't think that that's anything new. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I think we're probably going to be one of the last ones. Like, they're going to be holding out to the end until they absolutely have to say something. But I wouldn't be surprised if other countries would be talking about it before us.
See, I'm not sure about that because the allies have been pretty silent. Up here, we recently had, and I was on a radio show talking about this just yesterday, or the other day, pardon me, where I was ripping into a CTV reporter up here in Canada who did a 14.5-minute interview with Chris Mellon for Canadian Television News Network, okay? So CTV is what it's called for our American friends. And In that 14 and a half minutes, can anyone guess? Very simple answer here. The answer is no or none. How many questions she asked about what's happening in Canada? What does Canada know about UFOs? The answer, 0.
Okay, this is going to be a shocker to everyone, but I agree with Lou Elizondo on this one. Of course she didn't say it because it's always easier to talk about another country than your own.
She was the Washington State Bureau reporter for CTV News.
Okay,
And-
well, Dave, come on now.
And
Give me all of the specifics.
Okay. No, but I agree with you. I agree with you. And to ignore the topic where for the country that you report on, she was more interested in deflecting from, as she put it, little green men, to that she was absolutely convinced that it was Russia or China.
Right. Well, the fact that she referred to them as little green men should tell you right off the bat where she stands on the issue. So, again, not shocking that she didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
with
Bryan.
regards to Canada.
Yep. Well, I think in a couple of months, it's not going to be that our allies are going to reveal the secrets that we have. I think it's something totally different that is going to maybe force the hand to reveal that we do have these craft for military purposes. So we're building up, and the people that he's mentioned, when you mention Australia and you mention New Zealand and some of these other countries, we have a vested interest in certain parts of the globe that are right now under like a minute to midnight type of threat. And what better way to take a tyrant out by saying, look, we have this, we're going to use it, and we're going to blow you out of the water. So maybe it's going to be an appearance during a military event or action, and not necessarily Australia saying, well, we have several of these TR-3Bs here, and we're going to show them to you.
Well, Gary Spikes Jr., let's get you in here.
I'm almost agreeing with everybody, but I also have to kind of throw something else like I did before in. Is there any way, and I'll present it as a question, is there any way that we could be doing this as a conglomerate effort of all the major powers on the planet to bring this stuff forward to defend against maybe an invasion from an extraterrestrial civilization?
Yes and no.
That would be a Greer thing, huh? Wouldn't it? We're gonna seriously. I mean, let's go back to Greer. He's predicting alien invasion or a mock alien invasion where we have to fight back, and then we become one government, one world. I mean, the story keeps going on. You can take it whatever conspiracy path you want. I think we're very aware of what the threats are. We've been talking to some of them. We've been maybe having delegates to others. We know about reptilians. We know about Greys. We know about Pleiadians and so on and so forth. And we've been doing our best to reverse engineer stuff because we need to. It's a national security. It's also survival thing. So I don't know about a war or an invasion. There's no reason to invade this planet because if you go outside, you'll see there's way too many ships that would fight each other to get the dibs on that.
Roundtable, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're 2 hours down, 1 hour to go. The Roundtable with Lynn, Bob, Bryan, Nate, and Gary continues right after this. All right. I'm going to step away. You guys chat away. Don't all talk at once.
I think definitely, we've definitely got to start hanging around with these folks so we can get our UFO-ology on.
You got to get into the UFOs because, you know, when we get reports about Bigfoot, we investigate Bigfoot, which we do a lot. We do both of them. And usually when we're there for either or, we have to keep both of our hats on because you don't know what's going to come out. Now, I don't think, you know, Bigfoot is not the pet of aliens, nor is Dogman, like the aliens walking them or whatever. I think that's BS. I think because they know who's interdimensional, who isn't, they're just aware of who the players are, just like we're aware of Chinese in our airspace and Russians, so on and so forth. But when you get a lot of sightings that correlate to light anomalies with Bigfoot, there is something that's going on there. And I think now, through my own experiences, real close-up type of depends moment experiences with Sasquatch and lights and flashes, I think it goes more towards energy and a transfer from physical, like we are now, to, some kind of energy, not necessarily aliens. So keep it going.
I never was on that boat that aliens and used Bigfoot, but
Right.
I have taken some reports of Bigfoot being seen with in concordance to alien. I wouldn't put it past an alien race to use a Bigfoot for something.
Here's something that Science Bob could, if let's say the Bigfoot and the aliens are both using the same portal to come in, and that's why you're seeing them.
Could be.
See, that's where the reference. I don't think they're using each other. I think they're just using the same entrance to get into the arena. That's it. And maybe through the change, trying to see that. Maybe through changing, whatever the energy is that is being converted or changed or manipulated is there, it's strong enough to help that craft to come in just as much as the other creatures. I mean, and another thing that we're not even hitting on is that I think when we're playing around with the collider right now, I think that alone is also helping create rips in time and space and different timelines. And I think that's where you get the Mandela effect from. You grow up on one timeline, but when they, after they finish their experiment, you're attached to another timeline that's like, what the hell are you talking about? Darth Vader said, Luke, I'm your father, So it's all kind of interrelated.
Just like we was talking about earlier, it's all kind of intertwined via several factors around the central.
I mean, we they started ramping up a firm lab again over in Illinois and stuff, right? So what's happening over there is they're having a hell of a lot of these flying humanoid sightings like Mothman. Some people even reporting things that look like pterodactyls. It's very easy if you're unaware that you're creating a rip in a certain dimension or a space before you're playing around with, that's, you get these things coming in and out all the time now.
It's funny you say that because this would be right down Lynn's area. We have actually, on the paranormal side here, because my wife is Wiccan also, we have noticed that the ley lines themselves have moved around a lot. And I wonder if that might be from the electromagnetic disturbances from the power grid and stuff.
Possibly. But I know also, haven't the, Bob, you can probably correct me on this if I'm wrong, the Earth's axis has slightly changed as well. So that could also affect it.
And it's been shown by really good scientists that it's been caused by climate change. So what happens is the Earth's currents, the currents that circulate around the globe, climate change has caused their speed to change. And as these currents change speed, they tilted the axis. Yeah, we can show how it works.
Right, but climate change happens it's an Earth cycle, and it's about every 26.
Great. Every 10,000 years, you have happened what's happened in under 100 years because of us.
Yeah. Now, hasn't the Earth flipped axis once before?
No, that's the magnetic poles. They swap.
Poles change.
They swap a lot.
Yeah.
Right. But the Inuit are the ones that have noticed it right off the bat because this is their world. It's kind of like, when you come into someone's house, you move like painting right behind Lynn. You just, she's going to notice that it's been moved because that's her space. And then she's going to throw a curse on you. But
True, she will.
But this is what the Inuits have been like kind of screaming about, the fact that things aren't right. So, but I think it's we're just living through that moment where the shit's hitting the fan.
All right,
then
guys.
it's going to come back.
We got about 45 seconds here. And, excuse me. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And it looks like we are good to go. And we got about 30 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Carl ×2, Andrew ×2, Catfish, Ben, Science Bob, Media Fox, Bigfoot Rob, Jeremy, Magnus ×2, and Fast Hemi for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. And it's a great way to support this show. Thank you to, we've got 183 people on here right now. I hope you're enjoying it. Here comes hour 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ekphrasis. Ekphrasis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the Roundtable tonight. We have Gary Spikes Jr., Bryan Bowden, who literally hosts about 17,000 podcasts, Science Bob McGwier, Nate Rudd, Bigfoot researcher out of the state of Washington, and Saturday night host here on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Saturdays, Lynn Wallington. And I want to talk about Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. Recently, they have been the faces of releasing a lot of big news with a lot of big videos. And I don't know how they're getting these videos. Obviously, sources way above them are releasing these to them. And I'm wondering, at the beginning of this, if we go back to 2017, what we heard Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal breaking the news in the New York Times. Then George Knapp takes over. Then Luis Elizondo takes over. And now we're back to George Knapp and especially Jeremy Corbell. Is there a pattern here that anyone is noticing? Lynn, we'll start with you in regards to how this information is getting out.
Yes, it always comes out in very shadowy, mysterious ways. And that's why I'm always wanting to know, where's the proof? How do you back this up? So, yeah, of course there's a pattern to it.
Is it Bob, is it about friendship? Is it about trust? You've played in that shadow world before.
27 years of it. So look, what we're seeing with Knapp and Corbell is really different, because a few hours after they release something, the Pentagon comes on and says, "Oh yeah, that was us. That was our Viper team or our Snoopy team, and they took the video and the audio, and yeah, we know them. It's them. It's us. Those things were unknown." That is really different. So what does this say? This says, I think this is a planned release, and they have picked Corbell as the person they're going to feed stuff to, because Knapp can get it on mainstream media and so forth, and he's been successful. And then the Pentagon comes out and says, these are real, these are ours. And I think we're being slowly prepared for whatever is going to happen when this report comes out. I don't believe any of this is an accident.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Do you think, Bob, that Jeremy Corbell, considering his mentor, George Knapp, is really trying to keeps the reins tight on him a little bit. All right. Do you think that Corbell is the new younger face of the franchise in releasing this because Tom DeLonge blew it when he had his opportunity?
I think Tom DeLonge blew it, but I don't know the answer to that question. That is a plausible explanation for what we have observed. But I know Tom DeLonge blew it when WikiLeaks published the emails between Tom DeLonge and John Podesta naming General William McCaslin as the holder of the core secrets. That was the end of Tom DeLonge having full-blown trusted access, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
All right, Brian, what's your thoughts?
I don't think it's planned, and I don't think it's initiated by people within the government to say, "Hey, we have UFOs." There's been a lot of hacking going on, and no one's really been paying attention to that. And a lot of strange stuff, like solar, observatories going down and being blocked out and stopped. So I think some of these guys are using some of these events to acquire some videos to send out. It's startling for those that see it, but in the real end of the unless we get like what you were saying before, like right angles, and you see more type of entities in these craft, it just looks like a drone really flying in the sky. It's nothing really magical, but I think this, if they start putting out some better videos, then it could get very interesting. These are just, I think it's just they're feeding them some stuff. It's not. I don't think it's organized.
Well, that actually brings up a good point, because when I talked to Elizondo the other night, he does believe that there is a video coming out before June 25th that will really make people open their eyes to the phenomena. And
I hope so.
And I hope it's not in some sort of FLIR type camera. I hope it's not from a gunship camera like the nose cone of an FA-18 Super Hornet from their radar. I want to see something clear. I want to see a black triangle clear that one of these fighters tries to get close to. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, again, when you're talking about all these, the films that are coming out, and you're seeing the gun camera footage, there's better resolution than that gun camera footage when they're shooting it. They just haven't released that, and you can see some pretty intense stuff on that. But I hope so. I hope a better video comes out. I hope something that's crystal clear without a doubt. Like, oh my God, look at this thing. Maybe something flying from Earth, and they capture. They're tracking it with satellites, and it goes past the International Space Station. Something. But up until now, I'm honestly not really impressed with a lot of these videos. I've seen things firsthand that looked a lot better. So,
how about for you, Nate? What do you need to see?
Gosh, I'm kind of an outsider looking in on this subject. So, to me, the videos that I've seen are pretty impressive. Like I said before, I've seen Sasquatch footage that's better from, I believe it was a helicopter weapon system on an Air Force base. But it would be neat to have some footage where you could really see some detail, because it is hard to see. Obviously, you can see how fast they're moving and things like that. But yeah, it is hard to see detail on those videos that have come out. But to me, it's pretty spectacular either way. Like I said, being it's not really in my wheelhouse, but I'm definitely interested in it. It's been great to watch.
Gary, how about for you?
I mean, coming from the aspect that I have with the military and everything that's going on, and me and Nate both coming from the Bigfoot world, everybody knows about all the Bigfoot videos. There's a million of them out there. We would definitely have to see a huge improvement in the quality of the video, and even then, with all the CGI, I can't even say it, computer graphics that we have and the technology. I mean, just a few years ago, the video of the supposed ship flying across North Texas was from a movie. I honestly don't think that we're going to get that kind of a disclosure. I don't think the government is going to disclose that definitive of a video. It's going to have to come from an outside source for the simple fact they don't want to disclose it. If they disclose anything like that, it will be a video of their own equipment 10 years back. If once again, just like I said, with drones, we can make the sharp G turns now. Everybody talked about the Aurora. Well, the Aurora project was way back there. The SR-71 Blackbird was developed in the 50s and 60s. So it's going to have to come from, like Bryan was saying, maybe a hacked source or something. If it is, I don't think the government's going to disclose it. They're going to use their older technology and just give us a tidbit to tide us over for some other time.
Well, we're soon going to see. I'm curious because I love watching patterns. I love seeing the patterns forming and flowing because it really lets you know, okay, whose turn is it now to release information? It's like, okay, there's going to come a time here probably after June 25th where all of a sudden Jeremy Corbell is not going to get those videos to pass on. It's going to be someone else's turn. Whether that's back to Leslie Kean, whether that goes to any of the television networks or whatever, we're going to see that happen. That's where it's going to get interesting. But I want to get back to a topic that we talked a little bit about earlier on in the show, and that was, and I want to spend some time on this, and that was about the John Greenwald Black Vault story regarding the erasing of emails that really proved that Lou Elizondo worked at the Pentagon, ran the UFO program. I think this is a story where people could go to jail for this. Yes, we touched on that, but we also touched a little bit on Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar, still very controversial for people out there in Radioland who may not know who Bob Lazar is. Back in 1989, he came out publicly saying he worked at a base at Area 51 called S4, where he was reverse engineering alien technology. And that is something where I'm very curious about because nobody can find any history on Lazar. Is there any pattern here, Science Bob, that you are seeing with these people who are anti-Lou Elizondo at the Pentagon, maybe trying to wipe out his credentials? And does it give Bob Lazar and his story a little bit more credence?
I don't know what relevance it has to Lazar, but I see a pattern of trying to undermine Lou Elizondo's reputation. I believe that he is currently very capably fighting back with really good help. Now, there's just one thing that every time Bob Lazar is brought up, I mention. And what is that? Did he have access to S4 Area 51 enough to know anything? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. What did he know? He knew enough about the goings-on inside that base to bring dozens of people into the desert out around Area 51 and show them the flights. They videotaped the flights. John Lear, a bunch of others. You cannot take that away from Lazar. Whatever else he said, Element 115, how they work, I don't know about any of that. But I know you cannot take away ironclad proof that he knew stuff that was classified that went on inside there because he could predict the testing times to the minute so that people could video them.
That is very true. That is very true in regards to that. And you know, Gary, let's get you in here on this one if you don't mind, because I'm very curious. You know, you are a someone who has read up on Lazar. You've kind of looked into this. What do you think? Do you think the scrubbing or the potential scrubbing of Luis Elizondo's files from the Pentagon, or the emails from the Pentagon, pardon me, let's get it right, that this could show some relative patterns here with the Bob Lazar story.
No, definitely. I mean, I mentioned it earlier about it coming straight across, and it's a pattern that you not only see in this world, we're seeing it in the political world. I honestly believe that it definitely, to me personally, it gives a lot more credence to Bob Lazar's story, because we are seeing it happening again with Lou. I just pulled him up. I hadn't been keeping up with Lou Elizondo. I'm going to have to do some reading on him, because he's definitely got the credentials. I honestly believe that when it comes down to it, that they're going to figure out a way to hush him. And I don't think I think he's went too big to do it in a negative, how would we say, a physical way. But they're going to ruin his reputation, and I'm surprised he's still with the DOD.
Me too. How about for you, Nate? Have you ever looked into the Bob Lazar story?
No, not really, Dave. I've seen a little bit on TV and stuff over the years, but I don't really know that much about it to comment too much on it, honestly.
Okay, well, we appreciate the answer. Your hair looks fantastic, by the way. It really does. It really does. Lynn, for you, I know you look at things with a critical eye because you never were in MUFON, but being somebody who's followed the UFO story for a long time, and we have a lot of those same questions about Lou Elizondo that we do about Bob Lazar. So I'm curious, when we hear the Pentagon reports, scathing reports, that there's people there getting rid of these emails that have Elizondo's name attached to it, to me that senses that he's being scrubbed. Do you concur, or do you see it differently?
I don't know, but kind of going back to what you were just talking about before, this goes exactly to my confusion about why everyone has jumped on the Lou Elizondo train so quickly when so many people were talking smack about Bob Lazar. Sorry, I almost swore there, but why was everybody so against Bob Lazar, but yet they're so willing to jump on the train with Lou Elizondo? What's the difference? I feel like I'm just not getting something here.
Bryan?
It's two different things between Lou and Bob Lazar. Lou is doing a totally different type of work for our government that Bob was. Bob, being a scientist, locked away. I mean, he basically lived for that, doing that work. He generally, most scientists that I know really care more about the science and figuring something out and reverse engineering than even eating or sometimes their family. So I believed Bob Lazar day one. There was something about it that rang a lot more true, and that was pre all this crazy social media stuff. I think Lou now, they could get rid of every email. The NSA has them, so they're never really going to get rid of them. And I'm sure Lou, from what his past career was, has plenty of copies of what he needs to prove that he was there.
And I think I'm someone who believes the Bob Lazar story too. There are a lot of holes. I think we can admit there are a lot of holes in that entire story, but for the most part, I do believe that he was there. And I believe it from a journalism standpoint that it's basically because the television station KLAS has never rescinded the report publicly. They have never rescinded it. And if you know the backgrounds of how journalism works, you know that if that story ended up being confirmed as a hoax, they would have rescinded it and gave their biggest apologies. And George Knapp would end up, looking with a lot of egg on his face, And that's why I believe the story is from the journalism background side of it. Lazar, never talked to him. Don't know. Never talked to him. But as we got about 4 minutes to go here before we go to break here, is it possible that this is showing, Bob, a pattern that the U.S. government or the Pentagon can scrub someone's history?
Oh, they can do that. They can absolutely do that. Just yes, they can make a legend and they can scrub your identity. They've made legends for every intelligence agent that ever has operated overseas undercover. So, and they can do the reverse. They can just look at the Federal Witness Protection Program. They can scrub people. Yes, the answer is obviously yes.
All right. But why do that, Bob? Why do that? What is the purpose?
What they've tried to do to Lou is undermine his credibility so that people don't take him seriously. I mean, it's worked with Lynn.
Wow. Dropping that bombshell right there.
Right? All right, Bob. All right.
But it did. I mean, you don't trust the guy as far as you could throw him, and you're correct.
Most of them.
You're correct in that all of this smokescreen, lies, twists, etc., makes it hard to know who to trust. It really does. It really is hard to know who to believe in all this. Period.
It really is. And, like I said, there's a lot of holes in this story. We still got to figure it out. But it's amazing that 32 years later, we are still discussing the merits of whether Bob Lazar is real or not. And his name keeps popping up. I'm just surprised nobody else has stepped up to the plate. That's what gets me, Gary, is that we haven't...
He could fix it with one handful of metal. It would be done.
I have to interject on something right quick. Have y'all ever thought, I got to be very careful how I say this, have you ever thought that the reason they scrubbed his emails was maybe to protect some of the sensitive information that he had, to keep hackers from getting it?
Could be.
Very plausible.
His lawyer is going to have a field day. Any of his emails that were classified are federal records. They can wipe out his unclassified email because he was no longer attached. But his classified emails, they are in a world of hurt.
Well, I understand that. But if a federal agency scrubs those records, then we're stuck right at square one where we've been with the state or the national judicial system we had in the last case of the emails. But if when you get to that level of government, they don't care about judicial. They want to get that information out of the public eye.
So,
I know y'all kind of been knocking on the guy, but I just pulled him up through my network with the Army Rangers, and he is exactly what he is DOD, and he is that level of DOD.
I know from personal knowledge that Lou Elizondo is a national hero.
Yes.
Period. He is a hero. Now,
100%.
what he's done for all this, I tend to believe most of what he's told us about it, and he's been quite careful not to tell us things about systems that he already knows can prove what he is saying, because he doesn't want to reveal national technical means to our adversaries.
And on that note, everyone, I'm going to get you to hold right on, because we are going to go to break here for the final time tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Nate Rudd, Science Bob, Lynn Wallington, Gary Spikes Jr., Bryan Bowden, literally 28,000 podcasts. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio. Let's talk some aliens next. We need some aliens here tonight. We'll be back. Be damned if I'm not doing a show without aliens.
We need Melinda Leslie.
None of us would have talked.
Oh, that's true.
I love Melinda.
So do I.
Just curious.
I'm taking my Skyhub crap out and parking in her backyard for a month. Yeah, I love Melinda.
Yeah, Brian.
Is anybody else hearing what sounds like a digital artifact and talking very, very low in their headphones or their earpieces?
No, I've been getting some clicking, and I realized that was coming off of Nate's phone.
No, I was getting clicking, but I also got like almost like the type of artifacts you'd get from like a ham radio. Like, you know, you know how
that's the reason you've seen me muting in and out to see if it was me, because I've got storms going on here.
Okay, because I'm hearing like it's like sci-fi-esque type of sounds, and you know,
almost like
I'm hearing it right now. There's something's almost like a hard drive.
Yeah. Do they allow hams to operate in your building?
No, they don't. But it would be par for the course, because there's always some kind of anomaly we catch on a lot of shows that I've done. It's some certain things. But I know it's not my
box right there. That black box right there with the silver top.
Yep.
That's my ham radio.
Okay, but this sounds a little bit more like something ramping up like a hard drive, computer hard drive, but I also hear a little bit of a digital artifact in the background.
Well, really hams do a lot of digital stuff. Lots of digital stuff now. So, I mean, it could be public service people driving by and putting out a big signal and getting into your equipment.
I got the Men in Black. I got the Men in Black here.
That too. I mean, it's 2:30 in the morning my time, so. But now, I would have put it past them.
I'm not very far from my truck stop. Could it be some of the big CB radios coming across?
No.
They can do it.
They can do that too.
But I've muted you guys, and I'm still hearing that hard drive wind up. Who knows?
Maybe it's Carl.
Could
it's
be
the government checking in on us, folks.
Well, if you get abducted tonight, we're blaming Dave.
Well, hey, they listen to Dave. They listen to a lot of this stuff.
Gonna want some more of that Bumblefoot hot sauce.
I remember talking to one former spy one time, and he told me that when he announced on his social media that he was coming for an interview on Spaced Out Radio, that there were a few people in the intelligence agency who reached out and said about time.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of people that do things for the government. After you got to be very confidential. You can't record them. You just have these meetings, interactions, and the stuff they're telling you, they're not getting any money from it, and they can go to jail for a long, long time telling you. But they're confirming a lot of the research that you do, and it's just you kind of wish you could look here's the proof, but it's part of the game, right?
Yeah, I would hate it for, I was just here too. I would hate it for them guys that's, the sacker. And that's where I have to be very careful, because seeing the level that he was, there is that camaraderie there and that brotherhood. Yep. But I would hate to be at that level. The sacrifices that these guys are given. And that's the reason I'm going to have to be very careful saying what I say about it. And I hope I don't offend any of y'all by not saying much. But
you're offending me. I'm offended. Nate Rudd, I'm offended. Get him off the air, Nate Rudd.
I have a question for you guys. What do you think, I'm not into this like you guys are, but what do you think about the Philip Schneider story? Was that guy legit?
I got to tell you what, we know one thing. He was sitting in his easy chair and was murdered.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, he was.
I was just curious. I don't hear his name. I know he's been gone a while.
Isn't he the one where they claimed it a suicide with 2 bullets in the back of his head?
Yeah. No. He had a cord around his neck. That's the guy that claimed he went down underneath the ground in Dulce and had a war with aliens.
Yeah. But and here's my whole deal though. How do you now the hand? That could be done in a saw accident, but the scars across his belly, that was done with a blade or something. And I don't see anybody standing there and taking that kind of. And I've got a lot of scars across my chest from surgeries. That does not look like I've seen pictures of the scar. It did not look like a surgery scar.
Hold on, guys. We got about 10 seconds. Thank you to all our super chatters. Thank you to all our new subscribers, all the veterans out there. And here we go with the final half hour of the Roundtable. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight for the final time with our panel on the Roundtable. We have Gary Spikes Jr. We have Saturday night host for Spaced Out Radio on our YouTube channel, Lynn Wallington. Bryan Bowden is here. Literally, he has I don't know. I've lost count of how many podcasts he has. Nate Rudd, who's a Bigfoot researcher out of the state of Washington, and Science Bob McGwier from Science Bob and Friends. Let's get into some aliens. You never go wrong with a little aliens in your diet. You really don't. But the government, Lynn, has really stepped up through this entire process to really segregate aliens from what they are seeing with UAPs. Now, the reason that I have heard this is happening is because they don't feel the public is ready for ETs yet. They're ready for UFOs, but they're not ready for aliens. And bringing in aliens and abductions and contact and everything that's in between. That's still a little too woo for this entire subject. So I'm curious for you in your thoughts. We are seeing the idea that there are a lot of talk lately about crash retrievals and potential bodies. This is now making its way into the news. Are we getting closer to actually talking aliens about this subject, or is that still something that is going to be pushed far off to the side, in your opinion?
I mean, I don't know. I would love it if they talked aliens, but again, I mean, I hate to be kind of the party pooper. I think unless they're forced to talk about it, I don't think they're going to talk about it. But I always kind of dislike the public can't handle it, because I definitely think that they can handle it. And in fact, I think, half of the people out there would probably be like, that's not real. We're also jaded at this point by things that, I don't think the public would be freaking out. Would there be a rush to buy toilet paper? Probably. It'd be like a snowstorm here in the Northeast, yeah, of course. But I don't know. I would love it if they do. Please bring on the alien talk. I would love it.
Nate, are you ready for aliens? Oh, I got you on mute. Hold on 1 second. There you go. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I was going to say, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for anything like that. I can handle it.
What makes you ready?
I don't know. I mean, I already believe they're real. I already believe they exist. So it wouldn't be a shocker to me. I'm not detached from it like a lot of people. So to me, it's something that's possible. So wouldn't be a big surprise to me.
That's because you can brawl with them. You're ready to brawl with them. You are. How about for you, Gary? What's your thoughts? I mean, how long can we separate UFOs from aliens in this disclosure movement?
I don't think we're going to be able to much longer. I'm one of the believers. I'm not in the UFO community like a lot of folks, but I truly believe that aliens and extraterrestrial beings have been here for off and on this rock for thousands of years. because I study a lot of the ancient prophecies and legends and stuff like that. But I'm ready for them. I think it would answer a lot of our questions. I don't want to get on the religious aspect of it, but I tell people all the time, I'll say this, I tell people all the time, what if our God was an alien? Does it change that he's still our God? No. Does it change that he doesn't have the power that he did? No. So if they do bring aliens on, I think that's where the factor comes in, is they're going to have to rewrite history. And that's the reason they're trying to figure out a way to do it. That's the whole thing with the Pope. But I'm ready. I'm going to bring it on. If it's war, it's war. If it's peaceful, it's peaceful. We're going to face it either way as a race, as a humankind. And it might unite us. And that might be the greatest thing that ever happened to this, us as a race, is if a third party showed up in this and it did unite us as a race.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. How about for you, Science Bob?
I have these I cannot understand the reason for the last 75 years of crimes, civil liability, and all the other stuff that has occurred. So I don't know what's underlying, what's the basis for this level of secrecy and the threats and other things that people have had made against them by uniformed military people, men in black, government agents, etc. What is so bad they would do all that they would hide it? So what do I think? I think that there's a coming event that the government knows and there's no way to hide it. And so they're beginning to roll it out slowly to prepare us for the event. I have no idea what it is, but given how things started in the 1940s and where they are now, it seems to me like they know something that is coming and they're preparing us.
That's what makes sense to me.
What it feels like. That's what it feels like. I don't have any evidence, but I'm not a scientist. I'm Bob the person with internal feelings, and that's what I feel.
All right. Bryan, your thoughts?
Have to unmute. I don't think they're going to initially tell you about the aliens. It's easy to drop aliens after you say, yes, we have craft not of this planet or world. People make the assumption automatically about aliens, and then they can slowly, release information about different types of aliens based on physical characteristics, saving maybe anything that's reptilian or praying mantis for later in the broadcast, and in keeping with like a Pleiadian or something more humanistic to kind of give you a little more commonality. But what I did love was when former President Reagan, addressing the United Nations, said, what if there was a race that was threatening us? We'd get, and we would get together pretty quick, wouldn't we? So combining that with, again, Greer's, Project Bluebeam, we're all going to die type of scenario. There's a lot going on here that's interesting, and I hope it plays out the right way, because what Greer has stated, and some other people have tried to concur with him, could be a pretty scary next 3 to 5 years or 6 months.
Well, we're soon going to see how this plays out, because for the people who have had those experiences, it's very real. It's very traumatic, whether it's health related or whether it's mentally related. It is a traumatic scenario when you see another type of life right in front of you. Doesn't make sense. Not supposed to be there. And that's where it gets a little bit weird. I mean, at some point, Lynn, do you see the fact that we are going to have people who are experiencers? Maybe it's the late Dr. Edgar Mitchell's Free Experiencers group starting to make a push towards the fact that this is happening, this is real phenomena, and we need to address it along with the UFO story.
Well, I think people have been saying that all along, so I don't think that would be anything new. I think what it will take is for the general public to be pushing for that as well. because the UFO community has been pushing for that all along. So that wouldn't be anything that they haven't been doing for the past,
but what I'm saying
30, 40 years.
But what I'm saying though is making it's different to make a hue and cry on the internet, on a website. It's a much different thing to get in front of the cameras, hold a press conference or something along those lines. Get on CNN, get on Fox, get written up in the New York Times, where it starts to get real at that point.
Well, again, we did that not that long ago. Not the free organization, but there was the what was it called? Back in 2012, where they talked to some, I think it was former members of Congress, but oh my God, the farts tonight, I can't.
Oh my
God. That's a good question.
Well, truth. But yeah, I think we, again, I'm going to have to say the same thing. I think we have been doing that. It's just that in the past, we've been called crazy for doing that, or we've just been dismissed. Now, maybe people will start to take it a little more seriously, but I think at this point, because there has been some disclosure, and maybe this is just a really clever act on the government's part, there's been a little bit of disclosure. So now I think the UFO community is sitting back a little bit more than they have been in the past. Like, oh, okay, maybe disclosure's coming. Oh, well, we had 6 months. Let's see what happens in June. So, I don't know.
Dave, touching on what you said, because in my group, we deal with a lot of experiencers that are really freaked out because of the experience, seeing a reptilian in your room or waking up on a ship and they're remembering it. It's kind of hard to deal with. And then the ridicule saying, oh, you believe in aliens, or have you seen aliens? It's really tough for them in their world. But the fact that if we can validate that alien craft are here, not of this world, it in turn proves to these people and to all their naysayers, like, see, I told you, it's real. So it kind of gives them a little bit of validity without, introducing everybody to the different species. But I mean, it's a step. It's a baby step to help them out on the healing process.
Well, that is a big step. Gary, would you concur with that?
Yeah, I think that in most of the cases that it would give a little bit of a sense of justification and closure behind it. But then what about on the other hand, the folks that are trying to process it as, well, maybe I was dreaming, or maybe something, and then that gives them a full clarification. Oh my God, this actually happened to me. So then that's going to add a whole different dynamic, to how we're going to have to deal with it. But a thought came to my head as Bryan was talking. Maybe this genuine disclosure thing could be the government leading us to. I know y'all been talking about and alluded to it, but would that be leading us to a full disclosure in the future?
Sure. Bob, what about the crash sites we keep hearing about and crash retrievals? This is the next step after the UFOs that we're seeing filmed by the military right now. Crash retrievals is starting to speed up and grab a little bit of hype here, whether or not we have anything like that. Now, if we do, and we do have bodies per se, is that something that, even though it makes rounds in the media or on social media, that would actually come out from the government? Would they be willing to spill those guts as of right now?
I'm not sure that the government has any of that stuff in their possession. Have you heard Senator Harry Reid and many before him say that he tried to talk those who had access to getting him into Lockheed Martin and other places that had access to all the materials so that he could see it and he couldn't get in. So if it's in private hands, the government doesn't have complete control over whether or not it's seen. Would they tell us that they have things? I just don't know, because I think there's a lot of things that were done in the past 75 years that are not really that good in order to maintain the secrecy. Okay. And I just don't think we're going to see much of that.
Let me ask you this then, Bob. What kind of secrets do you think are being covered up? I know it's a hypothetical question, but what do you think's being covered up that they do not want to get out to the public?
Their actions. Their illegal or semi-legal actions.
But give me some examples. Is it Roswell? Is it Kecksburg? Is it the Phoenix Lights?
We have nonstop stories put together by very credible people from very, very good researchers that tons of threats were made. Tons and tons of threats were made against the people in and around Roswell that saw all sorts of things. And those things are crimes.
Well, as Jenny says in the chat room, we didn't react too well for War of the Worlds.
Yeah, but we're not in the 1930s and Orson Welles is dead.
And another thing is, going with what Bob said, if you find out the government's been lying to you about these things, then what makes you want to believe what they're telling you now? And given our current situation, and I'm saying that, wouldn't that make people say, well, why wouldn't they lie to us about X? There's a lot of things that they've you got to keep on the, I guess, down low. Otherwise, you can have anarchy when people are questioning, well, they've lied about aliens all this time. What else are they lying about? And then
we don't even need aliens to know that they do things. I live in eastern Alabama. 20 miles to the west of me is Tuskegee. They experimented on human beings with
100%.
syphilis and other diseases in Tuskegee. We don't need UFOs to know the government can do horrible things. We already know from all sorts of disclosures that people were unbeknownst to them, injected with psychedelic drugs. The bad things have been done. I don't think they're going to trot all that out.
Gary, your thoughts?
Why'd you have to bring me into this?
Well, because you're that guy. You're that guy.
In times of darkness has to prevail to let everybody.
Can barely hear you, my friend. Can barely hear you.
In times of darkness has to prevail for people to appreciate the light. There are certain things that we do in the government that the government has to do, and I don't agree with hardly any of it. But they're doing things that we don't need to know about. I'm going to have to play the role with. I'm going to stick with it that the full disclosure would be the worst thing that would happen. I have to agree with Bryan that it would be total anarchy. It would be total civil war. I'm going to have to stick with that.
But why? Why do you think that? Like, the government lying to us is nothing new.
No, it's not, and that's the whole thing. Is I'll just say that I can't disclose half of the stuff that I've seen and done, and that's all that's all I'll say in public.
But isn't that a problem?
It is, and I'll totally agree with it. But it's a necessary problem. Now, I'm not saying that doing it initially was a good thing, but keeping it under wraps is a necessary darkness. It's a necessary lesser of two evils.
Preparing us for a narrative does not necessarily require all of that stuff come out. So if we're about to be visited and everyone's going to see it, why do we need to be told there were crash bodies and people's rights were clobbered and people were murdered or whatever? I mean, to prepare for one thing, you don't need to know the old thing. That is the kind of decisions that I think will likely be made if there is some new thing that we know is coming and we're just about to be told it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think if they want to disclose the ships and the aliens and the bodies, that might be irrepressible for what's happening, but we don't need to dig up what the government did in the 40s to get ready for war. That let them demons lie, because we did stuff in Bosnia where I was at. There was things in Bosnia that I don't even want to think about. I'd rather face a Bigfoot as to go back to that, and there's a lot of guys and Elizondo might be, as much as that guy knows at the level he is, I would not want to go to bed at night. No, if he knows exactly what y'all said, he knows. Just think of what it's doing to his conscience as a human being.
Well, we are under 1 minute here until we ship off for the night. And I want to say that this has been a great panel, a great discussion all night long here on Spaced Out Radio. And I really do appreciate each and every one of you coming on the show and discussing it. Gary, thank you so much for your first time. I thought you were great. Your hair is nice and tight on the sides. Appreciate that. Yeah, Bryan Bowden, I know you're probably going to make about 17 new podcasts just out of this episode right off the bat. So we appreciate you. Nate Rudd, I know you're heading into the forest soon. I wish I could be with you, man, because you're just south of me in Washington State. But hopefully that border opens up soon. From the Saturday Night Chair, Lynn Wallington, you're a great part of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for everything that you do. And Science Bob McGwier, I tell you, it's always a pleasure to have you here. And it's been a great, great night of conversation. Where do you stand on the UFOs? Remember, June 25th is coming up very, very fast. Whether or not you are a fan of UFOs, I'm going to ask you one thing. Pay attention, because we don't know what's coming down the pipe. And we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and all the snarkers and snarkettes at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, well, you got to ask Nate Rudd, because he's our bodyguard. We'll talk to you soon. Good night.